what I like to call the slums of McLean. It's a very popular city here in Northern Virginia for many reasons. It's got a hometown feel, proximity to Washington, D.C., Tyson's Corner. However, it might not be the area for everyone. And in this video, let's go ahead and hone in on a couple reasons why you might not want to move to McLean. Let's go. Hey there, friends. My name is John Dehart, and I'm with the Homes from Dehart Real Estate team here in McLean, where home is where Dehart is. And I'm your Northern Virginia and DC real estate resource. And our goal of this channel is to be your #1 go-to resource for all things that you need to know regarding your relocation here to the DC area. And we really aim to provide the most relevant and reliable and practical information that you can find on the internet about Northern Virginia and DC. And if you are thinking about making a move to the DC area, we would love to connect with you. So please do me a favor and email me at the email below, or shoot me a text message on my office line, and you'll find that below. And we would love to be a resource for you. So let's talk about McLean, or what I like to call the slums of McLean. So McLean is an amazing place to live for those who can afford to live here. One reason why, though, you might not want to move here is the cost of entry. The average home sale price in McLean, Virginia is $1.4 million, and it's basically up 5 to 7% year over year for the past several years. So when you think about McLean, it's one of the more expensive areas in Fairfax County and Northern Virginia, and if you compare it to the DC area, it's one of the top price per square foot areas. So you'll typically find houses somewhere in the, let's just say the single family detached homes in the 1.4 plus $1 million range. And that usually gets you somewhere in the ballpark of 1,500 to 2,500 square feet, including a basement. So that's a huge price per square foot. Now, there are other properties in McLean, obviously, like, for instance, condominiums and townhouses that you can find for less than $1 million. However, if you're buying land, and typically the land is going to be, let's just say, a quarter acre or more, those prices are going to be close to $1.5 million. And just in that in itself, that's a huge price tag with a 6% interest rate. So not only do you have to pay a high price per square foot when you purchase the property, but property taxes are also high. So in Fairfax County, they're one of the higher counties in Northern Virginia and in the entire DC area. So another reason why you might not consider moving to McLean, Virginia is really the traffic. So it's a rather congested area, and let's face it, most of DC is known for having a terrible traffic. So McLean is probably one at the top of the list of having the most congestion. So there's several streets that you can drive up and down to get you in and out. For instance, Old Dominion, Dolly Madison, which is 123 or Chainbridge Road. And then you have roads that are coming in and out of DC that basically get you in and out of McLean. And those areas, especially at peak hours, can be really tough to navigate. But after living here for, let's just say, the better part of 15 years, you learn the specific areas that you want to maybe stay away from, and the areas that are going to be problematic when you go to commute to your next location. So there are really a few different areas, and so when you're looking at the big picture when it comes to traffic in Northern Virginia, one thing I've always advised my clients on over the years, especially before the pandemic, was that the key to living here is really living close to where you work. Because at the time before the pandemic, most people were going to work on a daily basis, which meant it was even more congested. Then after the pandemic, people working from home, the streets were pretty wide open, and it made it a lot easier to get around. Now that most of the population here in the area is going back to the office, it is getting a little more congested. So it's something to consider when you're looking to potentially move here, is that, hey, where am I going to be commuting on a daily basis? And if that's somewhere that's far away, you could be living on the streets of, let's just say, the Beltway of 495 or 95 coming up, or 66, which are areas that are very, very congested at the peak hours. So just a couple thinking about traffic. So another reason why you might not want to move to McLean is because, even though it is a city in Fairfax County, it's really not it doesn't really have what they call a city vibe. So it's really not known for being a very walkable area, when it comes to the DC Metro. It does have, specific parts of it in Tyson's Corner in McLean that are pretty walkable and give access to the Silver Line Metro. But at the end of the day, there's not really a whole lot going on after dark. So McLean, I don't want to call it sleepy, but it's definitely not happening. Now, there are some really great restaurants in the community that, we love, specifically McLean Family Restaurant. Some others that, during the day they're packed, especially, after we attend church. But we just really love the fact that you can actually drive up to the grocery store and, park in a parking lot and not have to worry about getting a ticket and driving into a parking garage and having to navigate, elevators and stairs and that sort of thing. So it just feels like a small town community. If that's not what you're looking for, then you're probably not going to want to live here. Now, on the flip side, McLean is close to, the Washington, D.C. line. So the district is super easy to access. So Georgetown, Chainbridge Road, there's some really, really easy access points to get in and out of DC. You can be at the museums from, let's just say the edge of McLean in, 10 minutes on the George W. Parkway. So it's easy to navigate from that perspective, but you really do have to leave downtown McLean in order to have that city vibe. And if you are looking for more of a city vibe in McLean, you're going to want to go to Tyson's Corner, which we're going to do a completely different video on. However, if you're talking about McLean itself, it's more suburban. It's more suburb. So you're not really going to see, a whole lot of nightlife there. It's pretty quiet after dark. So one of the last, but not least reasons why you might not want to move to McLean is the real estate market. It is super competitive. So most of the properties that we are listing in McLean or writing offers that are in McLean are having multiple offers on that house. So what that means is that if you are a buyer, let's just say moving from another area, you really have to have your ducks in a row before you start searching for homes. The price points are high, the competition's high, the inventory is low. And because the inventory is low, it's created a lot of issues for buyers fighting over the same house. So in a lot of cases, we're seeing anywhere from 2 to 5 offers on a house, specifically under $2 million. In those houses that are in really tip-top shape, say the cream puffs of the real estate market, we're oftentimes seeing those escalating over $100,000 more than what their asking price was. In a lot of cases, that makes people feel a little uncomfortable. So if you're looking to potentially, purchase in McLean, you're going to have to be really, really aggressive when it comes to writing offers. At the end of the day, we're getting them through, specifically if we're working with buyers. So we're locking down contracts, on a regular basis here. And it's a wonderful experience, when you beat out several people in a multiple offer situation. But just know that you might not be able to get the contingencies that you were hoping for, meaning you might not be able to fully inspect the house, prior to buying it. We're always going to do our best to make sure that happens, but that doesn't always mean that it will, because there might be another buyer out there that's willing to take it without inspecting it fully. So in those situations, we work them out, but just know that it is super competitive, and it probably always will be competitive due to the fact that it's a real close proximity to Washington, D.C., Arlington, Bethesda, Tyson's Corner, City of Falls Church, and potentially, Old Town Alexandria and further south. So those are a few reasons why McLean might not be an area for you to consider relocating to in the DC metro. And listen, I hope this was all really helpful. And if it was, please do me a favor and feel free to email me, the email address below. You can also text me at the number below. Happy to hop on a call and discuss the pros and cons of McLean and any other areas in the DC metro area. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Just remember, home is where D Heart is.